Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining this SysKit Point product session. My name is Daniel, and I'm the SysKit Point product manager. Today with me, we also have Carlo. He's our customer success manager, and he'll be guiding you through the demos. So he'll be doing most of the heavy lifting today. Our topic for today is how to achieve total visibility into your Microsoft 365 security footprint with SysKit Point. We will also show you how you can easily secure and govern your Microsoft 365 in a very fast and efficient way. So many of you already know us as a company, but for those of you who don't, let me first briefly introduce SysKit to you. SysKit is a software development company founded more than 13 years ago. So we create innovative and easy to use enterprise governance and management solutions for Microsoft 365 and SharePoint. We currently have almost 4,000 customers around the world, some of which you can see on the right-hand side here on the screen. So before we start, just a couple of housekeeping items. All registrants will receive a recording of this demo session. And at the end of the webinar, we will have a Q&A session. So please don't be shy to use the Q&A function and to ask any questions you might have. And now, with no further delay, let's start with the presentation. So I believe we all share the view that Microsoft 365 brings a lot in terms of cloud collaboration, and it did unlock new ways of working. But it also did lead to some of the new challenges for the IT teams. So for us, while researching this, and let's say learning from our customers, we did identify that there were a few key challenges almost every organization was facing. And to go into that a bit deeper, one of the first things that all of those, let's say, companies are saying is there is a lack of centralized visibility and control. I believe we all agree that jumping from one admin center to another is not the best thing when you need to manage and control an ever-changing environment. So also, things do happen fast, so sometimes even faster than you can react. So it's critical for your data access and security to be able to have a centralized overview of who has access to what. And finally, lack of easy to use management and automation capabilities. In other words, there is no easy way to enforce governance policies, automate processes, and manage permissions in bulk. So the result of all this was, and still is, a very time-consuming manual process. Sprawl is sometimes out of control, and there are more and more security breaches. So in order to eliminate all of those challenges, we saw clear need for, let's say, an integrated solution which would bring you back that control and which would help you secure your environments. So for those of you who are new to SysKit Point, SysKit Point is exactly that, an integrated and scalable platform for Microsoft 365 that helps you get better control over user access, inventory, lifecycle management, and all other important governance topics across multiple Microsoft 365 workspaces. So now let's talk about how SysKit Point actually works and what would be your scenario, for example, while using Point. In short, we start from centralizing your inventory so that you can have an overview of all of your workspaces, including Teams, sites, groups, OneDrive, and even Power BI. So as well as, let's say, all of your internal users and guests, and that's all in one place. When you centralize it all, you are ready to start monitoring and to dig deeper into your environment. This sets the foundation and gives you the possibility to secure and protect your environment. So with SysKit Point, you can better understand and explore your workspaces down to the fine details. You can quickly drill down and check documents or user activity. Also, you can easily explore your environment per user. So understand if they're internal, external, exactly what they have access to, and manage their permissions directly from Point. You also have more than 30 pre-built reports available for you to stay on top and be aware of everything you need to know to achieve total visibility into your Microsoft 365 environment. Just one example, our client, Corey Pharma, they say they save more than 4 hours a day by having decentralized inventory management and now reporting. So you can find their use cases in the handout section if you want to know more. And with that being said, now that you have a brief overview of the flow, let's move on to the demo part and use cases. So Carlo, over to you.
Thank you, Daniel. Just give me one quick second to share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see it. Okay, so Daniel was here to show you kind of the vision behind SysKit Point and what we intend to do. What I'm going to do is kind of put that into action and show you different ways that you can achieve visibility into your tenant. My name is Carlo. I'm the Customer Success Manager here at SysKit, and I will be guiding you through this demo. So already here on the home screen of your new M365 platform, you can see various angles through which you can tackle the visibility and the centralized kind of inventory of everything you want to see in your environment. But we will start, of course, at the beginning, and we will go over here to the SysKit Point dashboard. The SysKit Point dashboard gives you at a glance and very powerful overview of your entire tenant. So not only that it gives you an overview of some of these baseline pieces of information, such as your inventory of various teams and M365 groups, standalone SharePoint sites, it also gives you a lot of actionable intelligence, right? Some things that you can already immediately intervene on to start cleaning up and making your tenant way more secure. So here in the example, we can see that here in this tenant, we have 81 inactive resources of some sort, so either Microsoft Teams or SB sites. More importantly, we have 5 orphaned resources, and we will see how that plays into the entire picture. This entire report is not only informative, but most of the pieces of information here can be additionally drilled down, so you can immediately take that needed action to make your environment more safe. For example, if we take this example of the external collaboration section, already here I can see some useful information of having 41 external users or even 39 different sites with some sort of exposure outside of my organization. And we're exactly going to do that. Let's dive into these 39 sites and see what this brings us to. Okay, so now we're looking at one of the other baseline reports in SysKit Point, which is the sites report. Of course, it's been already pre-filtered to show only the externally exposed sites. Keep in mind that a lot of the content here can be additionally filtered out and drilled down. But the most important thing is, for example, if we click on these 18 Microsoft Teams, we will immediately get the list that we can intervene on. If I select one of these teams and want to start doing exactly that work and get that insight of who is present, who has access to, for example, this team, once I check it, I already get a set of actions I can perform directly out of this site's report. So it empowers the administrators to directly take action. In addition to these management options, I can create various reports, right? One of the basic ones that I want to show you today is, of course, this permissions matrix report. This is one of our distinguishing features and one of our baseline reports that shows you who has access to what in the context of that resource, of that team, of that standalone SharePoint sites, whatever it may be. So let's do exactly that. Let's generate this permissions matrix report. Okay. The permissions matrix report gives us an overview of various SharePoint groups that kind of have that default membership and presence within this QA team. Additionally, it shows us individual users and security groups that are present here. But what we can also do is dive into the specific content and see how it may or may not be shared internally and externally. So if we focus, for example, on this analysis 2022 document, if I expand it, I can see that I have various types of sharing, both internally and externally. I can see that I'm sharing it with Eva, who's color-coded as an external user, or Jonathan, who's an internal user. This refers to the direct sharing. More importantly, this permissions matrix report highlights to the lowest level if I have any anonymous links generated, if I'm sharing it through a specific sharing link with specific people. Once again, this doesn't just give you insight from top to bottom, it also empowers you to take action immediately out of here. So I can select this anonymous link and immediately in this contextual menu, I can remove it. Now that I know that I have various types of content in this QA team that's shared and exposed externally, I might want to actually explore that additionally. Keep in mind, once again, that a lot of this is explorable, drillable, so we can go directly to that QA team and get a dashboard overview of specifically that resource, that team, that gives us some general information and then an overview of permissions, membership, and even the content on it. Since I'm today interested in seeing what specifically is externally shared, I need that visibility. I will go exactly to that section of go-to reports that we've seen earlier, and I will generate one of these externally shared content reports. Once again, it's pre-filtered to give you the exact pieces of information that you need to intervene exactly here. So annual reviews, I can see once again that I have Alex here as an external user who's a member of this SB group and as such has access to this particular file. Okay, in addition to these two beginning places, right, the dashboard and the sites, SysKit Point allows you to do a couple of more things to kind of get that insight into various resources. If I want to find out, for example, where Alex or any other user is present in my tenant, I can also go to my users report and I can tackle the visibility and the presence in my tenant through this view. Once again, you're met with a report that allows you to immediately take action where you can see the overview of membership on your tenant, right? Who has access, who's a member here. And once again, I can click on any of these users and do various actions. One of the most important ones that gives you that rundown from top to bottom for Cork, I want to know where he's a member, where he's present, and I want to know a little bit more about how he was given access to there. Right here again in the go to report section, I can create this user access report. And notice here on this report that you will get a full rundown regardless of the type of membership that Cork has, right? I can see all these various teams, standalone SP sites, M365 groups, and not only that, but I can see how Cork gained access exactly there. Once again, as soon as you click on any of these resources, you can remove Cork's access to that section. So it really depends on what the case in front of you is, what you're trying to resolve, right? Is it user-based? Is it site-based, meaning team or SP site-based? One final one that I want to highlight today is the Microsoft Teams and Groups report that gives you a different angle on all of your created teams and M365 groups. This one specifically focuses on membership, on ownership, and its privacy settings. So we constantly talk about taking proactive action and staying not only in this reporting realm, but staying alert the entire time. Keep in mind that a lot of our reports, as soon as you click on one resource or various, you can actually create your own alerts that as soon as something wanted or unwanted is done, for example, on this resource, I can be notified as the administrator or as a user. Okay, same intuition right here as in a lot of our other reports. You can immediately take action by scheduling this report, sending it to the relevant stakeholders internally, or exporting this report as a PDF or an Excel. So here, once again, we've shown various ways how you can tackle this visibility as long as you have some sort of a goal in mind, whether you need to intervene into a team, into a specific file, or a user, and all of their access in your tenant, this is how you would do it. If there are any questions about this, we will have a Q&A session in the end. But in the meantime, I'm handing you over back to Daniel to expand on the story a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Carl. So going back to, let's say, continuing with our journey, the next step in our journey is the control part. So during last year, we've been heavily researching what makes a good rollout of governance among our clients, but also non-SysKit customers. And let's say, to no surprise of ours, there is no silver bullet how to handle this. Every organization is different. Every organization has its own processes, and there is no one size fits all. One thing that did pop out of all this is the fact that the IT teams that successfully rolled out governance and lifecycle management did it in a way that was very easy and very intuitive for their end users. So with SysKit Point, we do that. So we enable IT teams to move away from doing manual and reactive governance tasks on day-to-day basis and focus on defining processes, which basically turns them into the enablers of proactive and automated governance within their organizations. All this while enabling the IT teams to stay in control and track the progress. So how does this actually work? SysKit Point enables IT teams to automate the entire end-to-end workspace lifecycle management, from creation through maintenance and disposal. So once the IT teams sets up the policies and links them to the workspace request templates, they are basically done. So SysKit Point takes over and monitors those workspaces until they are removed from the tenant. This makes the let's say end-to-end lifecycle management very intuitive for the end users, because from the very moment they request a workspace, the appropriate policies are applied to it, and without basically them needing to worry about that at all. Also, during the workspace lifecycle, end users get notified if they need to do anything to assure that their workspace is compliant with the company policies and governance best practices. Also, we do take care of those workspaces after they, let's say, stop being utilized. So when SysKit Point detects inactive workspaces, we notify the owners and let them decide if they wish to keep, archive, or delete the data. So that being said, we'll switch now back to Carlo, and he'll take you through the process and these 3 steps in a bit more details with the demo session. Okay, Carlo, back to you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. Just allow me to share my screen once again. Okay, hope everyone can see it. Okay, so to once again put this into a bit more context within our platform, I'm here to actually show you how you can handle that end-to-end lifecycle of your collaborative workspaces. Once again, we will begin chronologically. So we will dive first into the provisioning feature. The provisioning feature allows you a couple of things. It allows you as the administrator to exert more control over the consistency of your various sharing, security settings, membership, and default ownership settings. So it allows you to not just do that, but then to expose those newly created templates to specific users within your organization that can then request a space that's appropriate for them and get an approval from you or one of your other internal stakeholders. Okay, so once again, let's start with provisioning. If we go here to the settings section, and under our governance, we navigate to provisioning. Let's see how that exactly is done. In SysKit Point, we allow for 4 types of resources to be provisioned by your end users. You can set up Microsoft Teams, standalone SB sites, Yammer communities, and M365 groups. Today, I want to use an example of an internal project, right? A Microsoft team that is needed for some sort of an internal project. Let's set it up and let's see how it can empower you and have you exert more control over how this is used. So if I type in internal project template and enter some description, this is the exact information that will be offered to your end user. And we can dive into that a little bit later so you can see what that looks like from their perspective. I will set this as a private template since it's internal information. Here I can additionally set some default settings for ownership or membership. I want my requester to immediately become an owner, but let's say that I want to remove this rule where he can add additional owners. For the membership, I don't have any requirements right now. I will just allow that requester to add additional members needed for that project, right? Okay, this is something that I was talking about a couple of seconds ago, where by creating this template, you can ensure that you're staying consistent with each new team, each new SP site created in terms of how it's shared and what its sharing permissions are, right? Once again, I want this only to be shared within my organizations, and I want to make the sharing permissions a little bit more tight. Okay. In addition to a couple of these settings that we see here on the screen in terms of adding sensitivity labels to any new team created here, especially if they're internal, right? They might need to be labeled as confidential. We can also place different types of custom metadata on these newly created teams or SP sites or Yammer communities, right? Whatever it is that you're creating here. Custom metadata is one of our relatively newer features that empowers you to add additional data points to this collaborative workspace to help you and assist you later on in terms of governing it and in terms of reporting on it. So in the context of this internal project, maybe I want to place some sort of a project end date, right? And I want to empower my end users to enter that value whenever they're provisioning a new internal project. If I, for example, see that we're past the project end date and this team has been inactive for a couple of months, once again, it might prompt me as the administrator to take action and look into whether that team or site is needed. Okay, another distinguishing one in SysKit Point is the fact that you can set up your own approval process. So you can create your own hierarchical path to actually be passed over to the relevant stakeholders, right? As soon as your end user requests some sort of a space, you can take them in SysKit up to a 3-stage process, right? Handing over, for example, from the manager of requester to a SysKit Point administrator, the approval process for the creation of this new team. This really allows you to kind of control that sprawl of new teams, new sites that are unnecessarily created. Perhaps there's a better way or a way how that's already managed in your tenant. To stay consistent with what Daniel was saying earlier, we might want to focus on how this end-to-end cycle will work. Well, as soon as I provision a new team, I want it to be handled by some sort of a governance policy that we will dive into in a second, right? But I want you just to see that right here, right off the bat, any newly created team for internal projects, I can place some sort of an access review or an ownership policy that will automatically govern and signal to SysKit Point administrators and owners of those teams that they might have some action to do regarding that team. And finally, in the provisioning section, I decide and I have the control over who do I expose this template to, right? Is this available to everyone in my organization, or do I want to share it with someone specific based on whether it's a specific M365 user or a group, or do I want to base it on one of these built-in AAD property tags, right? So is it a city? Is it a department where the value is, for example, project management department? I can expose this only to them. Okay, so now we've seen how we can already, right off the bat, even before a site is created, how we can already ensure that a lot of the data is kept safe, that it's kept only to the relevant stakeholders within our organization. Now let's see when it's in existence, how we can handle it, right? Can we put certain rules in place to automatically govern exactly these teams? So for that, we will go to our automated workflows. And here I want to show you our take and our approach on how to set up this automated governance of your tenant. If I select here, create new policy, we are presented with 4 different pre-created automated workflows that you will then personalize to the needs of your organization. The first one, the access review, actually asks and prompts those site owners. It includes them in this process for them to perform some sort of an access review, whether it's for the membership or for the content sharing. And we'll talk about that in a second. The 3 below focus mostly on the ownership aspect of your sites, of your teams, right? As soon as SysKit Point discovers that there are less or more than the wanted number of owners, or if a site lost its owner, I want to prompt someone within my organization, the owner, the previous owner, or a SysKit Point administrator. I want to prompt them with some sort of an email to take action to review this site or team. But let's go back to that access review. So let's say that I want to make sure that my entire tenant, every couple of months, let's say once a quarter, is reviewed. If I select this access review, I'm presented with a very clean and simple setup of how to do exactly that. So let's call this quarterly review. I will set it up to repeat every 3 months. And then I decide, what do I want to hand over to those owners to review? And this is SysKit Point's take on the governance aspect, where we want to empower the stakeholders internally who are closer to the source of information, right? Who know what the membership should be like and whether that external user is still relevant for that project or whatever it is. And then here I choose, okay, I want the team owner to review the membership and also perhaps the content. But in the content section, I want them only to focus on what's shared externally. As soon as I create this policy, I can then apply it to various resources, and keep in mind that you can select which resources, which allows for gradual rollout of some of these policies and allows you to introduce that control gradually within your tenant. Okay, just to recap, we've provisioned a new team, we've provisioned a new site, we have some control over its sharing, and we can consistently check back on those settings, right? We check back on whether we have someone who has access who shouldn't be in that team or in that site. The final step here is, of course, the lifecycle management. The lifecycle management allows you to, in an elegant way and most relevant way, set up some sort of a parameter of what you consider to be inactive content within your tenant. What is an inactive team? What is an inactive SB site? Let's say that for your organization, that's 180 days. But I don't want to just include this into the reporting section. I want to make this an automated policy that will contact the owners of those resources after 180 days. And I want to make this entire process automatic. As soon as I click here and enable this lifecycle management, I could present those team owners with a couple of options and prompt them with a question of, hey, do we need this anymore? Or do you want to keep it, archive it, or delete it? If, for example, you don't want anyone to delete anything before it's reviewed, you can simply uncheck this delete option, and then they will be only prompted with these 2 possibilities. Okay. Now I would just like to quickly show you. So now we've seen how to set up these policies from end to end, how to set up the entire lifecycle management to really make sure that you are in control of your sharing, that you are in control of who has access to your tenant through various angles, right? But now I also want to show you what that looks like from that team owner perspective, or as we call them, collaborators, right? They assist administrators because they are closer to that source of information and can make informed decisions about that site. So let me actually shift our view to a team owner, Cork, who one day, as part of this automated governance, gets prompted with an email that informs him that he has 2 teams, 1 standalone SharePoint site and 1 OneDrive to review, right, as part of that quarterly policy that we've created. As soon as Cork clicks review now, he will be taken to his task center, where he will have overview of everything he needs to execute as a team owner, he will also have access to all the previously executed access reviews, lifecycle management reviews, and ownership, right? Okay, what does that access review look like? What do I need to actually do? So if we select here, I can see that I already have made some progress as Cork, as that team owner, and I've reviewed 8 out of the 12 teams or sites that are under my ownership. So I'm going to go to review, and we're going to use a relevant example from earlier for that QA team. Right here on the screen, you will also empower Cork to see where he's the owner, what he needs to also review, but what also has been completed, and then some additional pieces of information for Cork. But let's dive directly into that access review. If you just simply check this box right next to the QA team and then select review, your team owners will be taken to a very simple and intuitive 4-step wizard that will guide them exactly through this process of the review. Right here on the first step, they will get hopefully all the baseline information on this particular team, site, whatever it is, where they will get the description, some latest activity data, anything that might be useful for them and their decisions in subsequent steps. In this first screen, we are focusing on the default membership. Who are the default members that are present that have access to this QA team? Keep in mind that once again, you have these tile where you can immediately filter out only the types of users that today you want to focus on. I only want to know who are the members present in the QA team that are external guests, right? And I can see here that I have Adele, that she's an external user, but I might not be too familiar what Adele has been up to lately, right? I might want to supplement my decision by seeing, okay, what is Adele's activity? What has she been active in the context of this team? And we can do exactly that here under the go to reports, right? We can generate this user activity report. And then if we know, determine that Adele is not relevant for this project anymore, for this team, we can simply remove Adele from the group. Once again, SysKit Point will allow you and notify you who are the new members that have been added since the last review that you performed. So here you will see them tagged in this way. The next step is to do a very similar thing, but from the perspective of sharing. Now, whether it's user sharing or content sharing, right? We allow for 2 views. Okay. Here, let's select this shared with anyone. It's a bit of a simplified view. So right here, since I selected this shared with anyone, in the context of this QA team, I can see exactly which files, which document libraries folders are in some way, or not some way, but in this context, shared through an anonymous link. So analysis 2022, we're familiar with that example from earlier. I can combine it with the external audit anonymous sharing link, and I can select both of them and in 2 clicks, remove them right here. So whether it's direct sharing or sharing through anonymous links or direct links, you are empowered to do exactly that. Similarly, if we switch the view from the point of users, now, once again, I can explore. For example, Eva is my external user that has access to something. If I want to see what Eva has access to, I will simply expand right here and see all the resources in the QA team that Eva has access to right now. Once again, I can selectively remove her from one document, or I can remove her access altogether. Once I'm done with reviewing, once again, my membership and my exposure, my sharing, I will be led to the 4th and final step that will summarize all the actions that I took, that gives your team owners, your collaborators, a sense of control that then they can finally complete this review. Okay, did we forget anything? Once again, if there are any questions, please, at the end, we have the Q&A session. So please post those in the chat. Daniel, if you're ready to take over, let me know.
Okay, so thank you, Carlo. I hope that we've given you let's say a quick overview of how SysKit Point can help your organization. So, but before we go to your question, I just wanted to give you kind of a little exclusive. So let's say we have been working heavily so that everyone can easily try all these cool features. So I would urge you to try SysKit Point in action on your own environment to see for yourself how great it is. So it takes only a couple of minutes to set up, and so you just need to visit syskitpoint.com and start your 20-day free trial. The best thing is there is no commitment required upfront, no credit cards required or anything of that sort. So, and you'll have a 100% real experience. So try SysKit Point. That's something that we have rolled out this week to the wider audience. So with that being said, let's answer those questions that you had during the webinar. And I've been keeping an eye on those questions during, let's say, Carlos speaking. So I must say there have been a couple of, let's say, interesting ones. So thank you for that. Please excuse us if we don't manage to answer all of the questions right now. We'll take note of that, and we will follow up with you afterwards. But Carlo, I'm not sure if, let's say, you can also show some of these in our demo session. It would be great. So I'll start with some of the, let's say, questions. So if you can get the screen back to you. One of the questions that we had was, can I use SysKit Point to see what these external users have been doing in some team?
Okay. So of course, through SysKit Point, you, as we explained earlier, you have various angles through which you can tackle this visibility, right? And there's often more than one way to get to the same information. Of course, today we will go to the sites. We can use the same example, right, as earlier. You can search for that QA team, right? Here, the question was the external, Daniel,
external users. Yes.
Okay, just give me a second. So in terms of the permissions, right, we have the section right here that allows you to get insight into some of the segments that we've seen earlier, right? These are and various types of users and various types of groups that have permissions within the context of this are differently labeled, right? So for example, here I can see that Alex, for example, is an external user in the context of this QA team visitors, right? Which then can prompt me to select other reports and kind of pinpoint where exactly he is present. I don't know if that answers the question, or Daniel, do you have any other ideas?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so
right
thank you. Okay.
No,
perfect.
I just wanted to, so depending on what we're focused on, right? If we're focused on the content itself and who externally has access to that content, or whether we just want to know who are the external users present, we can tackle it from various points, as I said, right on the overview. So every team, every SB site will have its own dashboard that will give you exactly that overview. So here, I've immediately went through to those external users, and then I can click, for example, on Eva and generate the user activity report for her, right? To see what Eva has been up to in the context of this QAT.
Great. Okay, the other question is, let's say, does your tool detect private or shared channels? I believe the short answer to that is yes. So we do detect both of those. So you can set up if you want to detect shared channels, private channels. This is also visible through, let's say, all of the reports that are available here. I'm not sure, Carlo, if there is anything you wanted to show for that, or this is enough.
Yeah. So we can go here to view all settings. And once again, in our automated workflows under access reviews, we have the section that that shows exactly that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. One thing that's, we did show a bit during the demo, but the question is, can you show the email that owners received from Point, and can it be customized?
Of course. So all the communication that goes out of SysKit Point can be controlled and made more brand consistent, right? Especially if it's going to your entire organization, you can make it in various ways more brand consistent and control its content. Let me just show exactly. Okay. So right here in the email, I use the example of the access review email that core can get. And of course, here we're seeing some default settings, right? This is a demo environment, but a lot of these sections you can actually adjust to the needs of your organization. And then right out of here, they will have some sort of a call to action where they will be switched then back to that task center that we saw earlier.
Okay, thanks. Let's say one more question is, how do I track progress as an admin when it comes to these governance tasks?
Okay, that's actually a great question. So once you're on your home screen as the administrator, in addition to some of these reports that we've shown, you also have this governance tile. And that's exactly, think of it as the equivalent of that task center that your team owners get. So if you go to the governance, you get, once again, a great, both at a glance overview, but also an overview that you can dive deeper into. So right here, I see a review that started earlier this year. I can see what its progress is, and I can easily kind of track it at a glance. If I need specific details, right, if I want to get more nitty gritty, I can go down here, for example, for these access review that are scheduled, that are active, I can go here and find out more about which ones have been completed, who are the reviewers that are in charge of doing exactly that. For example, if I want to see just the ones that are pending, I can go to this drop-down filter right here and get a full list with the stakeholders, internal stakeholders that are in charge of this specific team, site, whatever it is.
Okay, thanks. So the last question, I'll take this one. So it was, do you have a Teams app for end users? Yes, we do have a Teams app for end users. So all of the, let's say, requests that end users are doing for these workspace, for new workspaces, are done through a Teams app. There also all of the sites and requests are being approved. So this is something that is available also within SysKit Point. So your, let's say, end users will not need to change their context to go into, I don't know, SysKit Point to request something like that. They will be able to do that through a Teams app that is available to, that will be available to them. So I believe, let's say, this is it. There are a couple of more questions, but let's say we will cover those separately afterwards. So just before we end this, I just wanted to let's say, thank you all for coming once again and joining us for today's webinar and demo session. As mentioned, everyone who registered for this session will receive a recording of this session. So feel free to start your free trial. And if you have any further questions regarding SysKit Point or any of our other products, or you just want to say hi, please reach out to us at sales@syskit.com. And it was a pleasure having you here. So until next time, I just want to say bye, and that's it for us. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Talk to you soon.